Welcome into the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Got a big show planned for you today, but obviously we're going to look a lot at this Kentucky-South Carolina matchup coming up this weekend. Joining us to preview this game is Ethan DeWitt. He is from A Sea of Blue. Ethan, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Rob. I appreciate the invite.
All right, so we got to start with, and I tell you what, I was looking up. I didn't watch the full game from this past weekend, but what in the world happened with Chattanooga this past weekend?
Yeah, so looking at it, it's a classic trap game, right? So you have a big emotional win over Missouri, a game that a lot of Kentucky fans and players alike, as well as the coaches, really wanted to win because of last season's loss when they went to Columbia, Missouri. So they come into town, you want to beat them. You have a lot of expectations for this year, and you put a lot into that game. So you come into Missouri, Liam Cohen, the new offensive coordinator, even talked about the game plan and the scheme that they had in place. They wanted to throw the ball a lot. You know, they wanted to open it up, see what Will Levis could do, and give Chris Rodriguez a break, just to not get him hurt before they get to this long stretch of SEC play. But I think what you really saw was just they underestimated their opponent. You know, played with their food a little bit. And Chattanooga came in ready to play. It's their one Power 5 game of the year, and it was a Super Bowl. And they came out and played a great game. Got to give credit to them. But I think really what you just see there is just a classic trap game when it comes to SEC play.
Is this something you think that is where they lost focus? Is this something that may affect them throughout the rest of the season, or was this more of like a pop in the nose and they're like, all right, we better fix it?
Well, I think you've seen this a lot over the Mark Stoops tenure. You know, you look back in 2015 or 16, actually, when they played Eastern Kentucky and the game was close to the very end, and they go to South Carolina or the next week and win, right? Play the best game of their season. So I think it'll definitely depend on how they look when they come out in Williams-Brice this weekend. If you had to ask me today, I would say it's probably a pop in the nose just because of the experience they have on the defense. I mean, you have 10 starters or seniors or upperclassmen, and one underclassman on that side of the ball. So I think just looking at overall, I would expect a pop in the nose. But if they come out and struggle this weekend, it could be a trend that could be scary for the rest of the season.
How has the play of quarterback Will Levis changed the program this season?
Well, I think it's been phenomenal for the first part off. Looking at it all, you saw Terry Wilson. Terry Wilson won a lot of games for Kentucky, but obviously the passing game just wasn't where it needed to be. You know, the last 3 seasons they finished in the bottom 5 of passing offense in FBS, which just isn't good enough for an SEC program that wants to win. You know, I mean, if you look back at Kentucky since Mark Stoops got there in 2013, they've taken a step each year to get better and better and better up to the high point in 2018 for the time being, right? And in 2018 they rode Benny Snell and a great defense to win games with only maybe 200 passing yards. But you look at Will Levis, you know, you're looking at a quarterback with phenomenal arm. Has the arm talent to play at the next level, has the strength, and definitely has the deep ball. You know, so when you look at it, Kentucky fans are excited, mostly because when you haven't seen anything like it for the last three or 4 years. And going forward, I think you're going to see more of that, especially this weekend. I think they're going to try to take some deep shots.
All right, well, that was actually feeding into my next question. Is this Kentucky team still built on the status of, look, we're going to play good defense and control possessions with the running game, or do you think that they are going to try to take some deep shots? Do they have the wide receivers that can move up and down the field in the SEC?
Yeah, so you look at it, I think you hit the nail on the head there when you talk about the pillars that Mark Stoops has built his team off of, right? So you have great running backs, and you win at the line of scrimmage. So when you come into those 2 pillars, I don't think will ever go away. But I think Will Levis does bring that difference maker to the team, right? So what I would expect to see this Saturday, I think you're going to see them pound the rock, Chris Rodriguez. I mean, like any NFL offense, I know Satterfield is from underneath Joe Brady at South Carolina as well. What you're going to see is you're going to see them pound the rock, outside zone, a little inside zone mix up as well, just to get into that play action pass game. You know, and that's what you see with Kentucky and what Liam Cohen's doing. He's taking the McVay system from Los Angeles, brought it to Lexington, and what you're seeing overall is exactly that. What the Rams have done to teams for the last several seasons. They're running the ball on the outside, maybe mixing up with an inside zone play every now and then, just to get that safety down to the box, and they're taking the shot over top. Now you look at Wandel Robinson, Nebraska transfer from Frankfort or Kentucky originally, committed to Kentucky before he backed out and went to Nebraska. Came back home, and he has been phenomenal. The last 3 games he's had over 100 yards from scrimmage for all-purpose yards. And Josh Ali, the fifth-year guy coming back from last season's team, and has really been really good in the time he's played, making catches. We saw a lot of targets last week. But for the when you talk about receiving core, you got to find a third guy. That's kind of where Kentucky's at right now. Wandel Robinson is fast enough to beat pretty much any SEC safety or corner over the top. But when you look at Josh Ali or Isaiah Epps or the tight ends Justin Rigg, Isaiah Cummings, one of those guys has got to get open. Wandel has had all the targets to start this year, minus obviously a few here or there. But he's obviously been the workhorse when it comes to the offense and the passing game. You got to find somebody to mix it up to if you want to keep taking those open shots.
Now you mentioned, they're going to pound the rock when they come down here. So Chris Rodriguez is healthy and ready to go.
So there's been a little rumor going around that he might have a wrist injury, which doesn't really help a lot when you think about the fumbles that have happened here in the last couple games, especially the one against Missouri when we could have put the game away in the first half and he fumbled the ball at the goal line. Missouri goes down and makes it a 7-point game before half, right? So there's been a little rumblings about that, but from all that I can hear, it sounds like he's gonna be ready to go and ready to play. But it could be something to watch for once they get down there.
All right. How does the Kentucky fan base feel about this game? Do they think that they're the up-and-coming program in the East? And even though South Carolina, up until this 6 of 7 run, they've kind of dominated the Wildcats. But is Kentucky at a point now where they think that they're a better football program overall than South Carolina?
If you had to ask me, and I think if you ask a lot of fans, definitely the mindset inside the program is that they are. I think you hit the nail on the head. You've won since Mark Stoops has been here. They've won 6-2 against South Carolina, with the last loss coming in 2019 at Williams-Brice. When you look at the program overall, Shane Beamer is a decent hire. I think going to take the next step for South Carolina. I'm going to help them get there, especially bringing in an offensive mind with an offensive mindset, right, for the NFL. And you look at it overall, it's when you come to the program, though, I would tell you that I think inside of it, they're going to tell you they're better. And I think fans would tell you that as well. But when you look at the history of it, it's no doubt that South Carolina still got the recruiting pedigree. You see the defensive line talent they have now. So you're kind of in a mix here. I think when it comes to on-field production, you're going to say that they would be. But I think in the recruiting world, South Carolina still might have an edge up on them.
All right. And is Kentucky starting to slowly care more about the program? And what I mean by that is that when you think Kentucky, you think, all right, this is a basketball school, but are they gaining the mentality that they can be competitive for a longer period of time on the football field?
Oh, absolutely. So right now coming into this season, this might have been a bigger hype than it was 2018 when Kentucky was going to be really good and ended up playing Georgia for the East there in Lexington that October. But yeah, when you look at it overall, fans are excited about football. Mitch Barnhart is putting in money to the football facilities. Re-upped everything 5 years ago at the Joe Kraft Center. And, they've just redid Kroger Field, built a whole new recruiting spot. So I think football is here to stay. Obviously when you talk about Kentucky, they're always going to be a basketball school in everyone's mind, especially with the way they're recruiting again now under John Calipari. But I'd be one to tell you that watch out for Mark Stoops. Mark Stoops has built a force in Lexington just with the fan base, and is a lovable guy that I think is going to keep taking the next step for as long as he's here. But now, if Mark Stoops was to leave, that might change.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Are they going to pony up the money to keep him? Meaning that he is, and I use this terminology down here a lot. He doesn't get top-ranked recruiting classes there, but it's getting to a point where Kentucky is trying to move their way up in the East standings. There's going to be a bigger school that may have a bigger checkbook. Do you think that the athletic department is going to pay Stoops more money to keep him there?
Yeah, I think they would. When you look at it overall, Mark Stoops has really changed what was a joke of a program in 2013, winning 2 games, 0 games underneath Joker Phillips. To one that is actually getting nationally recognized. One that's getting some love from national media and looking at it overall, and a program that has been competitive. So when you come to it overall, Kentucky is, when you miss Barnhart and you look at what you got to fork out the money. Now when you think about jobs that might make Mark Stoops want to leave, obviously his alma mater in Iowa would be one job that might be hard to overtake. I know there's some rumors about James Franklin going to USC a while back, and that Mark Stoops might be a name to watch out for there just because of his Ohio ties and the way he recruits Ohio and the way he plays Big Ten football, right? I mean, his premise and his pillars are built like a Big Ten mindset. So those would be the two schools I'd watch out for, really, if anybody's going to try to get him, if they come open. But I think if Mitch Barnhart had the choice, he would fork up the money.
So it's not going to be an issue of money. It's just going to be an issue of whether Mark Stoops wants to stay there.
Oh, absolutely. So you talk to a lot of people, and kind of an idea that I had that if you get Mark Stoops to year 10, I think he'll stick it out. So that year 10 will be coming up in the next year. If you get through that year and he hasn't left yet, I think it'd be easy to say that Mark Stoops might finish his career at Kentucky.
Ethan DeWitt from A Sea of Blue helping us preview the Kentucky and South Carolina matchup. The Wildcats schedule this year, it's when you look at it, I mean, this is their first game away from home, and the schedule is stacked up pretty nice for Kentucky this season. Would you agree?
Oh, I would agree. Absolutely. So, and this is going to be the first one of to start the SEC stretch. It's going to be big for them, so this will be the first true road game for a lot of the players. I mean, so you have a lot of experienced people on defense and on offense, but not a lot of them played huge roles in away games, So coming to Williams-Brice this weekend, it's going to be big. It's going to be important for the team. And they got to come out strong and not flat, right? So you look at the 2019 game where South Carolina won 24-7. They traded possessions there at the beginning, and then a couple miscues really got South Carolina off and running. The stadium rocked. So if you want to, the expectations you have in the program and what the fans want is for you to go to Georgia, maybe playing for the East in a couple weeks, right? So if you want that to happen, you got to win in Williams-Brice this weekend. And overall, though, I think you're looking at worst case scenario 8-4 season with the way it started so far at 3-0. Probably a miscue here or there, but you got a tough stretch coming up.
Well, and with that, you mentioned earlier in the program, they've got 10 starters that are returning on defense from last season. With that, and having so many guys that are back, and the fact that they've gone 3-0 to start, do you think this is probably the best Kentucky team of the Stoops era?
Yeah, you look at it overall, like defensively, you have a lot of experience, but you don't have the playmaker like you have in Josh Allen, right? In 2018, the guy was a beast. Reason he was a top 10 draft pick and defensive player of the year. You look at all that, but overall as a team, you have the offense, you have the defense. Now you got to play complementary football, right? So you got to keep your defense off the field and let the offense drive, and the defense's job is to get the ball back in the offense's hand when they're cooking, right? So overall, I think it's definitely one of the top two Mark Stoops teams. I don't know if I'd go as far to say this might be the best defense he's ever had or the best team he's had, but they're solid overall.
Final couple of questions here with Ethan DeWitt from A Sea of Blue as we preview Kentucky and South Carolina. Before I get a prediction for you for the game this weekend, we've seen issues off the field with an assistant coach assaulting his wife, a coach with an open container driving crazy, 6 players arrested and charged with burglary. Do you think that Kentucky maybe on the outside looks like a team that may have an issue with culture?
I think that's a question to ask, fair question to ask for a lot of people right now. You got to look at the program in itself, right? Mark Stoops is from Youngstown, Ohio, a blue collar guy, hard nosed, ready to go. And I think what you're seeing here is that it's hard not to say, right? It's hard not to question what's going on the inside. I know when you look at it overall, Mark Stoops is kind of tries to keep all that contained for the most part. Doesn't really talk about it outside a lot. But for the culture in itself, every football program is going to have stuff like this happen. Unfortunately, there are some bad things that have happened, and just got to take the next step and keep grinding if you're Mark Stoops and make sure that your culture inside your locker room is good. But yeah, it's unacceptable for things like this to happen. But again, when you look at it all as well, Dan Brezowitz, the chief of staff, will be let. They announced a couple weeks ago he'll be let go from his position. Boo Knight, the wide receivers coach with the open container, got demoted. Is now just offensive analyst. Scott Woodard, one of Liam Cohen's backup quarterbacks at UMass, took that job. And for the 6 players, Mark Stoops has talked about that. When you look at it overall, they have to. He's going to trust the court system, let that play out. They're currently awaiting for the grand jury to listen to it. So about a month into that, so we're waiting for that. And then that's unfortunate for those guys, because 3 of those guys would have been would have been big parts in this team. But, you have to, if something happened, you got to figure out what happened and go from there. So that's kind of where that all leaves. But you come to the culture, when it comes down to it, I think Mitch Barnhart trusts Mark Stoops. And, again, Mark Stoops kind of tries to keep it all in-house. So we'll see what happens there.
All right, and prediction for this weekend, do you think this is the game where, Kentucky kind of stamps themselves as, hey, we want to be the team that challenges Georgia for the East? Or is this a potential where South Carolina can pull the upset, in your opinion?
So I think it'll be closer than what a lot of people think. So when you look at Kevin Harris on South Carolina, great running back, obviously won the rushing title last year, and besides played a great Georgia defense last week, which is the only way I had 31 rushing yards. Right. So I expect that to change this week. I think to be a little closer for Kentucky. You're -6 on the turnover margin for the year. If you turn the ball over and you miss those hidden yardage on special teams and you do the miscues with false starts, holding calls, whatever it could be, this game could go make you go on your head, right? But we'll look at it overall. I think when you look at position groupings, besides the defensive line, Kentucky is just right there, if not better, at certain spots. I think the difference in this game be Will Levis. You look at Will Levis and Luke Doty. Will Levis got the arm; he's going to let it go, and Luke Doty is coming back from the injury. Played a great Georgia defense last week. I think we look at it that way. The one thing I would look at if you're Kentucky, though, Josh Vann has made himself into be one of the big play receivers in the SEC. Quick, got beat press man coverage off Georgia, who have obviously great secondary cornerbacks and safeties. So if Josh Vann gets loose and you lose the turnover battle, you probably lose this game. But I fully expect Kentucky to probably win a game, probably in like the 24-17 range. Is kind of where I'd put it.
Ethan DeWitt from A Sea of Blue. Tell folks where they can follow you and read your material.
Yeah, so you can follow me at Ethan DeWitt 1 on Twitter, and you can find my work on A Sea of Blue on Twitter at A Sea of Blue and online at aseaofblue.com.
All right, man. Good luck this weekend, and we'll chat with you later on. Thanks so much for joining us on the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Rob. Have a good day.
All right, there you go. Ethan DeWitt from A Sea of Blue. He's confident that Kentucky can come in and get the win. He thinks that last weekend's game against, Chattanooga, was sort of Kentucky overlooking Chattanooga. That's that whole rat poison thing that Nick Saban talks about. People were talking about, hey, Kentucky's going to do this. Kentucky's going to do that. Yeah, maybe not. The line on this game was started out at 6. I think it's down to 3 now. And, South Carolina fans look at this game as like, it's Kentucky. Kentucky was essentially almost like Vanderbilt on the schedule before they won, 6 out of the last 7. I think they played each other 32 times, and their record's like 18, 13, and 1. But Kentucky's won 6 out of the last 7. I don't really count last year, though, because they barely took a team up there as they were just trying to wrap up that COVID year. But it's going to be an interesting matchup, and it's going to be one of those things where Shane Beamer's team can make a statement early and say, you know what? The idea of Kentucky leapfrogging South Carolina in the East is over. Not having the whole Will Muschamp stench on this team where they couldn't beat Kentucky, that's over. And that's what Shane Beamer's chasing this weekend. Now, as far as talent, you would think that South Carolina has more talent on paper, but I think the talent is more refined at Kentucky under Coach Stoops. So let's take a call before we go to break here. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832.
You are receiving this message.
I don't know what that is. Phones are acting silly today. Anyway, you're free to call the program at 803-978-1832 if you'd like to join us today. If you want to respond to what Ethan said about Kentucky coming in and picking up a win over South Carolina, we'll take those calls. 803-978-1832. Some other things we're going to talk about today include a little bit of smoke with the Mizzou-Boston College game. I'll tell you about that and a lot more in just a moment. This is The Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Blake, I'm going with the Georgia defense. Thank you, Brandon. Megan, I don't normally agree with you on a lot of things, but I think that I don't think anyone in the East is beating Georgia. I really don't. Now, Kirby Smart may get them because he is an idiot, according to you, but I think that as far as overall talent, I do love the Florida fans on Twitter that are like, "Oh, they have a chance." Shut up. The Georgia defensive line may kill that poor quarterback. If he can't throw the ball, they're going to kill that poor quarterback. That's not going to be the same nonsense that happened with Alabama, in my opinion. The strange thing, well, not necessarily strange. If you look at this Kentucky team, this is like the team that has to. It's like they're one shot, meaning next season everybody's gone and they're going to be garbage. I mean, they lose what 10. He said it himself: 10 starters on defense, and the majority of that offense is gone too. I think 3 of the offensive linemen are gone. They're going to completely rebuild. Next year, Kentucky might be at best a 5-win team. Let's see here. Jimmy, only team that can beat Georgia in the East is Georgia. Kirby Smart can do it. Yeah. Brandon, the South Carolina schedule is just the South Carolina schedule. My buddy Ben Simmons says y'all going 4-8 next year. I don't know. Cousin Eddie always has a chance. I just, the way that Kentucky plays just doesn't match up with them as far as having the capability to beat Georgia. I don't think so, you know? So even if they go in and Georgia overlooks them, which, I don't think is going to happen. I don't think it's going to be, close. All right, hopefully we won't have people calling up and wanting to call twice and get mad because somebody calls them an idiot today. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Out to the phones we go. Scott, welcome into the program, sir.
Yeah, Rob. Every year I keep hearing that we have more talent than Kentucky, and I just don't believe it.
Oh, what I mean by that, sir, is that I'm talking about as far as 5-star players, et cetera, on the roster. I'm talking about guys like Zach Pickens and Jordan Birch and guys like that. That's what I mean by what I'm talking about there. But I think Kentucky is more well coached because, I think Will Muschamp was a failure. He's proven that. And, not being able to develop that talent to be a consistent winner in the East. And Mark Stoops takes guys that nobody wants and turns Kentucky into a respectable program.
Oh yeah, they're a lot better coached, but I mean Jordan Birch hasn't done anything. He's a bust.
I think it's a little early for that, man. He's only a sophomore.
He hasn't done anything.
Yeah, I think it's a little early to call him a bust.
Zach Pickens a bust.
You can make an argument that maybe Ricky Sandage, who was highly thought of, was
he hasn't done anything.
Yeah, I mean, you can make an argument there, but I think you gotta slow down a little bit on the other two and give him a little more time there. But we'll see.
DeCarrion Joyner's a bust.
Well, DeCarrion Joyner came here thinking he was going to be a quarterback and change positions. So,
yeah.
And with that, I don't think it's fair to call him a bust. He's a heck of an athlete, and I think that if you look at his tape from Fort Dorchester, he could throw the ball. I don't understand why he wasn't given more of a chance, but they just determined, hey, he's not an SEC quarterback. He is a heck of an athlete, though, and they thought they could move him to receiver. If he wanted to play quarterback, he would have went somewhere else by now. So.
Yeah. I mean, but our offense, we can't run the ball like we did last year for some reason. Basically, with the same players.
Well, I think the offense. I mean, obviously, the offensive coaching staff has changed, and I still think they're trying to feel their guys out a little bit. But also,
I mean,
respectfully, though, they up until the game against Georgia, which isn't the game that you want to try to do what they did, they were running out a slew of running backs. I mean. Zakondre White was out there doing great stuff in the Eastern Illinois game. And then Juju McDowell was a guy that got a good bit of carries and was effective in the East Carolina game. But in the Georgia game, they gave Kevin Harris the ball, and got him 15 carries. And I think that that should be the mentality this weekend. Pick one running back and give him the majority of the carries. Give him a chance to get established and get his footing, instead of saying, hey, we're going to give you 5 carries and that's about it.
What do you think has happened with our tight end, Nick Muse? I mean, he came back thinking this was going to build him into being picked in the NFL draft.
Right. I think
and
that he hasn't really been targeted. I mean, to be honest. And I think that he needs to get in sync with Doty and then go from there. I mean,
it seems like they're playing Bell more than they're playing him.
Well, I think Bell's a better blocker, and that may be with some of the stuff they were doing. They were looking for more of a blocking tight end than an actual receiving tight end.
Yeah,
so
I don't believe that's why he came back, though.
He came back to catch passes. He didn't come back to block.
No, he didn't come back to block.
Yeah,
it seems like that's his best thing he does is catch the ball, and we don't target him any.
Well, then that's on the offensive staff. But we'll see how that works out. But if they start getting the ball to Harris a little bit more, then the opportunity for Muse to get more catches with like little tight end flat routes and things like that will open up, and then they can go from there.
And I have a question for you. If the Miami and the Florida State jobs open up, are we going to see some other people leave bigger jobs to come there?
I think that Florida State right now, I don't think that that job is going to open up simply because they're going to have to figure out. I mean, in theory, they would be paying 3 coaches because they're still paying Willie Taggart. They may have come up with a settlement with him. They're going to throwing everything out with Mike Norvell. They're going to have to pay him and all those assistants plus another set of coaches to come in. But the reality is this: when you bring in all these new people, you're going to have a rebuilding year. And folks were upset last season, but you can put a lot of that on the pandemic. But Florida State's just not competitive. I mean, really aren't. They
not either.
Well, Miami, with Coach Diaz, they have had some success before, but we'll see how that works out. But Florida State may end up being one of the worst teams in the ACC. If they lose to Syracuse coming up here, they could theoretically go winless in conference play.
Do you think Mark Cristobal comes home to Miami, or does he maybe go to USC?
I think that Cristobal is going to stay at Oregon because they're.
You think he's going to stay at Oregon?
Yeah, well, I mean, why would you not stay at Oregon? You play in the Pac-12.
Well, SC and Miami.
Yeah, but the reality is that he's going to get paid a lot of money. He's already established himself up there as a recruiter. If you come home to Miami, all your recruiting ties that you have in out west, it's going to be hard to convince kids from out west to come down to Miami.
Yeah, but I mean, that's where he's from. I mean, that's where he really, got into coaching is,
Yeah, but I'm getting Nike
Florida,
money
Miami
up in Oregon. So there's that.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you.
Appreciate it, man. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Megan says, leave it to UK to name their stadium after the 5th best grocery store chain in the South. Wow, that's tough. Anyway, Blake says he thinks Kentucky has one of the best athletic directors in the country. Yeah, maybe. Out to the phones we go. One more time. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Rob, big day for me, man.
Why is that, man?
I have finally saved up enough money for that lower back SEC tattoo, so I'm going to get that done this afternoon.
I hope it's the actual logo, or maybe you can be a little extravagant and just get Nick Saban's face.
Well, it's going to be, the detail is going to be amazing. Nick Saban won't be on there, but we got a good logo going. So
I think you should get that Nick Saban face, because that's universal. I'm just saying.
Nah, I'm going to stick with the SEC logo.
Very good.
My question to you, since you've been spot on about wins and losses this year, should I go ahead and save room for a 2021 Natty tattoo just below that, or I'm struggling
for Nick Saban, or for who?
For Georgia.
Oh, I've said on the program, I think Georgia's the best team in the East. I think the defense is one of the best that I've seen in the past 10 years at least. The only thing keeping Georgia from winning a national championship, in my opinion, is Kirby Smart running Stetson Bennett out there for no reason, which you can't tell me why he keeps doing that. So until he stops being a buffoon and doing that, I'd feel a lot better if he said, you know what, we're not going to play Stetson Bennett again ever. We're going to let him run the scout team. And if Daniels goes down, we're going to put one of these 5-star guys in. I'd feel a lot better about Georgia's chances, but he keeps throwing that guy out there. So until then, it's really hard for me to say, hey, Georgia can win the national title. If it's just based off the defense, then yeah, I would go with Georgia winning. Okay,
so just a reminder for your listeners, the guy he's speaking of actually has a better record than Saban or Dabo his first 5 years as head coach, but that's beside the point.
Can you explain Stetson Bennett, sir?
Can you explain the final score?
Can you explain Stetson Bennett, sir?
He needs reps.
Your 4-string guy needs reps? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on from that.
I tell you what. When it's the fourth quarter of the Natty and we're putting him in there to win the game for us, then we'll talk about it. Okay.
You are moonwalking like Michael Jackson, sir. I've got audio from you on the program last week talking about Stetson Bennett's a 4-foot-tall quarterback. Now he's going to win the national title for you. Man, I hope that Michael Jackson hat is sitting well on your head, man.
Kirby knows football. Let's just leave it at that. Any chance at all? Does Tennessee have any chance at all in this game versus Florida?
If it's just talent for talent, no. But Florida is starting to believe that they're the team that can challenge Georgia in the East, and they may be overlooking Tennessee a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if Tennessee went down there and made a game of it. And then if they do win, Josh Heupel comes out and, looks like he's just this conqueror that went back down to Florida and won. And I would love to see Dan Mullen in his press conference and how he will avoid questions and everything else, sort of like he did with the LSU matchup last year in the game they had no business losing. But I look forward to those press conferences because he gets silly.
Well, Tennessee, there's no program in the country who's more overdue for just to have that one Saturday where everything goes right for them.
Well, we can get you a Tennessee tube top for this weekend if you want to root for them, man.
I'm an extra large.
Well, it's not really a thing against Florida. Their coach is just silly to me. The whole shoe thing last year was like, really? Come on, man.
There's no question about that. But I would love to see Tennessee do it. I just don't think they have the horses. But I will say this: I do have them losing 2 of 3 when it comes to LSU, Missouri, and Kentucky. So I think Mizzou. I think Mizzou's going to beat them because they got to go to Mizzou. Right.
I think they'll lose that game.
They play in Kroger Field as well.
Yeah, pick up the milk when you're done.
Yeah, I think they do in front of 40,000 screaming Kentucky fans. So. All right, Rob, I'll let you go.
Thanks, man. Have a good day.
See you.
All right. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, I have a story about Mizzou. We'll tell you this is kind of interesting. We'll have that for you in just a moment. This is The Rundown. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. Lane Kiffin going to LSU would be outstanding. They've lost 6 out of the last 7. South Carolina has. That blind squirrel. That's a whole thing with Will Muschamp coaching, brother. I did see Brandon, the whole thing with Josh Van. I did hear about that, but Will Muschamp said he kind of, I think I said this on here, but he was talking to Rick Henry, and like Rick Henry said, "Hey man, can you come over here and talk to us?" And he goes, "No, I won't. Let me get my $17 million that I got from South Carolina for destroying their program, and I'm going to walk in here and get another check from Georgia too." He is I can't stand that guy. Can't stand him. Blake, respectfully, the women's basketball team is highly thought of around here. Don Staley has built a really good program, to be honest. So I think they are really, really excited and Don Staley's got, like, you can make an argument, and some women's basketball experts have said her South Carolina team had more depth than her Olympic women's team did. Just saying. Derek, we've been talking about that, man, and it maybe they could. It would be kind of a big upset, I would think. Killing me.
Radio 1400, serving Columbia at 1400 and the world on the iHeartRadio app.
Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Thanks for joining us today. Podcast for the show. If you missed the interview with Ethan DeWitt from aseaofblue.com, previewing the Kentucky and South Carolina matchup, you can find that on the podcast. It'll be up at 5 o'clock today. Subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcast. You can also watch the show on the Fox Sports Radio 1400 Facebook page, and all of that's there for you. Okay. We'll take your calls too on the South Carolina-Kentucky matchup, 803-978-1832. Also the Clemson matchup with NC State, where to say the Tigers are on upset alert, I think is fair. The offense is put up 17 points against two FBS teams. I mean, there were periods last year where Clemson was scoring 21 and a quarter. They've got 17 in 2 games. Just saying, this could be the weekend where Dave Doran and NC State knock off the Clemson football team. It's feasible. Line started out at 12. I think it's down to 9 now. Coach Dabo Swinney says, yeah, teams aren't going to be blowing each other out, etc. But the reality is that offense is a sputtering mess. There really isn't any other word to describe it. They've lost their running back, or one of their running backs, to the transfer portal with Lynn J. Dixon, the guy that was supposed to take over for Travis Etienne, that did his time sitting behind Etienne, one of the best running backs in ACC history, did his time back there, got limited carries, was supposed to be the guy that was going to take over, and then things happen, and he decides to transfer. So now they've put a lot of pressure on freshman Will Shipley, who, when he's out there, he's played some pretty good football. Also, Kobe Pace is in the mix as well. But this is a different Clemson offense than what we've seen in a long time. Really, really have. And it's going to go one of two ways. I think Clemson either wins big this weekend, or NC State will win by 10 points or so. going to be one way or the other. Either the Clemson offense will finally get in sync, or they're going to get blown out. I mean, blown up a little again, not blown out, but blown up again. It's just amazing how far that Clemson offense has fallen off after Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne, and not to mention Amari Rodgers, who was playing for the Green Bay Packers, and a slew of the other wide receivers that are not there. It seems like they were just waiting on Justin Ross to go off, or Latson or Nagata, and they're just not. Now, a lot of that comes down to the offensive line too, where they're missing some guys from there. I mean, you've got your guy that was a first team all ACC guard now playing center for you. You rotate. I mean, they're rotating basically 3 centers because Jeremiah Trotter has had some injuries. It's just not what you want up there at Clemson right now. So, but it comes down to this: if they can get it moving up there and then continue to go on and roll through, it could be the same old story again. Clemson wins their 7th straight ACC title. We'll see how that works out. All right, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Brandon says losing Cornell Powell was a big blow. Yeah. He was a guy that was a big guy that could make some catches for you. So there's that. Blind Squirrel says if Clemson couldn't get their offense cranked up versus Georgia Tech, I don't think it's possible for them to get things working. Yep. I think that's right. Derek says, I don't think Georgia would have beaten Kentucky as bad as they beat South Carolina. Says he's taking Kentucky. Okay. Look, until someone squares up with Georgia and hits them in the mouth and makes Kirby Smart do something stupid, they're not going to lose a game. Until he looks to the bench and says, hey, since Stetson Bennett in, they're not losing a game. I don't see it happening. Quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up today's show here on The Rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Yeah, I don't think Bowman's not really doing anything, though. I mean, Clemson's got running backs that potentially can be really good. They're not they're playing like they don't have a sack on offense. I get that. I can say that without getting in trouble. They're playing like they have no balls on offense. Really. Uyunglele last week got like a 3-yard carry against Georgia Tech, and he's all jumping up in their face and stuff like that. Stop that, man. You weigh 250 pounds. You ran over a linebacker that weighs like 215, and you're trying to muscle up on him. You look like a 6'8" guy dunking on a 5'10" guy. Not buying that at all, man. Run the offense. Throw some passes, for God's sake. The Ole Miss offense against Alabama, that might be interesting. I mean, Nick Saban got lit up last year by Ole Miss, and that was the first season under Kiffin. So, I don't know if the Pirate would take his call. I said no balls, Alan. I don't know. You're giving up 5 points for South Carolina. I don't know if I'd go that far. Yeah, the Clemson offense is playing with no testicles, Megan. I stand by that. No gump, no blowing anybody off the line, none of that. Final segment of the rundown this afternoon here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. I appreciate you joining us for the show. You can call in 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Joining us Friday on the program, Jonathan Reynolds. He will be in to break down the NC State game with Clemson. Is this the year NC State gets it done? Can't remember how many times Clemson has won that game in a row in what used to be called the Textile Bowl. Wasn't played last season because of stupidity in the ACC scheduling. Let's not worry about about games that have tradition or anything. Let's not do that. Stupid ACC. Let's have 18 North Carolina Duke basketball games, but not one of our traditional rivalry matchups. It's ridiculous. 803-978-1832. Out to the phones we go. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, what's up?
What's up, man?
Nothing much. You?
Good. What's up, buddy?
Hey, I'm just thinking here, like, out of all the teams that's been playing for college football, Alabama's clearly good, but I think Penn State might give some teams a run because they're playing really good right now.
Yeah, Penn State's got a couple of what look like quality wins now, winning over Wisconsin on the road and Auburn at home, but we'll see how their season stretches out.
I'm just saying, if they beat Ohio State, they're looking like they have a shot to make the Final Four.
Yeah, I mean, if they win the Big Ten, they're going to be in the Final Four. I completely agree with you.
But do you see a game? What I was asking is, do you see a game where they could have like an oh shit type moment? You know what I mean?
All right. You can't curse on the radio, man. Sorry about that. I had to dump you out of there. Anyway, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. When you look at Penn State, I've got notes on Penn State. Where did I put them? I have to, I didn't bring my notes in on Penn State. So anyway, sorry, I had to cut the caller off there. You can't curse on the radio. Anyway, getting back to what I was talking about beforehand, the ACC last year, they put their schedule out, and yeah, we're not going to have Clemson playing NC State. That's just stupid. Just one of the bigger rivalries in ACC football. But they made damn sure that they were going to have Duke and North Carolina basketball. And you want to know why? You want to know half the reason that their football teams and the football in the ACC is a step below a lot of the other conferences is because there is a section of folks in the ACC that only care about that Duke North Carolina basketball game. And that's an absolute truth. They're going to have that. We could have a pandemic that was wiping the floor with everything. And no one could be there, whatever. The apocalypse outside, they're going to play that game regardless. Luckily for the ACC, the new commissioner's like, yeah, football is going to be 24/7 thing that we're doing now. He's got to put his money where his mouth is. Stop thinking that the entire conference is nothing but that Duke North Carolina matchup. And it's going to change a lot too. Krzyzewski retiring. Of course, North Carolina with a new coach. It's insane how it's like, and ESPN, by the way, they feed into that. Even when Duke and North Carolina are having down years, it's like the old big movie trailer voice with the game of the century, North Carolina and Duke. No one cares outside of Tobacco Road. No one cares. It's ridiculous. Anyway, something interesting with Eli Drinkowitz and Mizzou and their matchup with Boston College. Drinkowitz said this week he wishes Missouri didn't have to go on the road to Boston College. And he's been clear that it wasn't a slight to Jeff Haley's program. He said he'd rather like a more regional matchup for recruiting purposes. But Hafley said his phone blew up with people sending him Drinkowitz's quotes. Hafley responded to Drinkowitz saying, if he really didn't want to come to Boston, he should have called me up and asked me, and I would have gotten on a plane and flew out to Mizzou to play. I like that. I like that. You know what? You say you don't want to be here, then that's fine. We'll come play you. Jeff Hafley is not going to be at Boston College long. You folks around the SEC that are looking for a coach like, I don't know, at LSU, after the stuff that's going down with Ed Orgeron, yeah, that's going to happen. He's going to end up coaching somewhere. But he point blank told, hey, guess what? You don't want to come here. We'll come to you. That's fine. He's not scared of anything. So look out for that name. People talking about, hey, Lane Kiffin may go to LSU. I would look at Jeff Hafley, who has NFL coaching experience, was a defensive coordinator for Ohio State, and put together a really good Boston College team last season that doesn't get a lot of respect because people just think, it's Boston College. But if they didn't lose Jurkovich this year, they were going to be probably a top 15 team by the end of the season. I truly believe that. So there's that. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on The Rundown, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400 as we wrap up today's show. If you missed the interview with Ethan DeWitt, it'll be up on the podcast later on. He breaks down the stuff with the matchup with Kentucky and South Carolina. The most interesting part was when he talked about the culture that is up at Kentucky and is there a problem? Six players arrested for burglary, one coach arrested for beating his wife, but then she drops the charges. One coach running around driving 90 miles an hour with an open container, but doesn't get a DUI. No, none of that. Just give you a ticket for reckless driving. What are they brewing up there at Kentucky? I don't know. We'll see how that culture with Mark Stoops will come to pass with Kentucky. Kentucky is a 3-point favorite heading into this matchup this weekend with South Carolina. You also have NC State is a 10-point underdog at home to Clemson this weekend. Some of the other interesting matchups, LSU and Mississippi State. Last season, Mississippi State threw for 623 yards against LSU. Even though LSU has 2 all-world corners that are going to be drafted in the first couple rounds of the NFL draft. 5 touchdowns last year. Tells you how crummy that LSU defense was. I mean, Orgeron didn't even bother interviewing the defensive assistants, though, so he had no clue they were going to be that crummy. He just kicked back and basked in the glow of the transfer quarterback that came in and led him to a championship. That didn't work out too well. Anyway, yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup this weekend with those two. You've also got the game with Arkansas and Texas A&M. Can Arkansas? That would be a really shot there for Sam Pittman if he can knock that out. All right, tomorrow on the rundown we will look at a report on the Panthers, several other little things that we're having the mix. As I said, Jonathan Reynolds is on the show on Friday to look in depth at NC State. Up next is Lawton Swan from Clemson Sports Talk. He is the czar of Clemson Sports.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
You can follow him on Twitter at Clemson Sports. I'm on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. Podcast is up at 5:00. Also, the blog page, all kinds of sports information there for you, including Ric Flair responding to sexual assault allegations. That is on the blog page at Fox Sports Radio 1400.com. Keyword Rob up top. More of the rundown tomorrow. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. All right, you guys rock. Rob and Kale show tonight. And we're going to ask Kale about the lost video of Kale the other night losing his mind that I had no clue about. We're going to see what's going on with that. because apparently it was the funniest damn video in the world. So we'll see. I don't know what happened to it. Honestly, I don't. I didn't even know he was streaming. So hilarious. All right, appreciate you guys. We'll see you later on tonight.